श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरण मोहन जू की जय। निथिल प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। निथिल प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। निथिल प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत त्रिविक्रम गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मद श्रील भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मद श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्रील गोक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूप गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम चय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्रील प्रभुपादेर पार्षद नितिल प्रविष्ट श्रीमद श्रील भक्त्यालोक परमहंस महाराज की जय। तदीय शुभ आविर्भाव तिथि की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रीनिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि गौर जय। Yeah, our Shivananda Prabhu, Brahmachari, he's going to lead us in singing Vrindadev Ashtakam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Let me open it up. 1 second. Here it is. Oh, one thing I need to fix. Give me a second here. ঠিক আছে, আপনি শুরু করেন।
ডবল হবে?
আপনার ইচ্ছা।
হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে। বলো বৃন্দা দেবী কি জয়। বৃন্দা দেব অষ্ট কি জয়। গৌর প্রেমানন্দে হরি হরি ও। বৃন্দে নমস্তে চরণারবিন্দম। বৃন্দে নমস্তে চরণারবিন্দম। বৃন্দে নমস্তে চরণারবিন্দম। গঙ্গে চম্পে তোড়ি দেবিনিন্দে। রোচে প্রবাহ স্নোপিতাত্মবৃন্দে। বন্ধু করন্দো দ্যুত দেববাস। বৃন্দে নমস্তে চরণারবিন্দম। নাদরদে তরমান্দহাস। নাসাগ্রমুক্তা দ্যুত দেবতাস। विचित्ररत्नाभरणा श्री अड्डे। बृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम। समस्त वैकुण्ठ शिरोमणश्री कृष्णस्य वृन्दावनधान्यधाम्ने। दत्ताधिकारे वृषभानुपुत्र। बृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम। त्यागाय पल्लव पुष्प भृंग। मृगादिभिर्माधव केलिकुञ्ज। मद्दादिभिर्भान्ति विभूषमाना। बृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम। Diyadutena nikunjayona Ratatkayo keli vilasha siddhi Yachau bhagam kana nirichatang tada Brinde namaste charanada vindam Rasa vilasha vasatesha vrinda Bane tadishangri saroja seva Labha chapungsang kripaya tavaiva Brinde namaste charanara vindam Tatantra vidvi Leela vidhana kil Krishna shakti Tavaiva murti stulasi niriloke Brinde namaste charanara vindam Bhakta vihinaya parada lakshay Chipta shakamadhitaranga madhye Kripamayi tvang saranang prapanna Brinde namaste charanara vindam Vrindashtakanja srunvat patedva Vrindavanadhishpadabja vringa Saprapa vrindavananetavasam Tat prema seva lavate kritartha Brinde namaste charanara vindam Brinde namaste charanara vindam Jaya Brinde Maharani Jaya Brinde Maharani Brinde Maharani Jaya Brinde Maharani Gaur Premanande
এখন আমি কেশব অষ্টক গাবো
আমার তো মুহূর্ত তো মানে এখানে কোথায়
আমি এক সেকেন্ড
ই হয়েছে
আমি দেখছি
একটু মিস্টেক হয়েছে এক জায়গায় অল্প একটু মিস্টেক হয়েছে
চিন্তা করবে না
হ্যাঁ
চিন্তা করবে না তো কিছু নেই
বলেছি প্রথম
কে
তো
बस एखाने श्री केशव अष्टक नवा प्रिय कामंजरी रचित कर्णपुर श्रिया विनिद्रतरमालती कलित शेखरे नोज्वला तरोज्वसिता युद्धिका ग्रथित बाल्गुवैकक्षका प्रजे विजयिनां भजे विपिन देशत केशव ईशाङ्गी मणिकस्तने प्रणत शृङ्गि पिङ्गे क्षणे मृदङ्गमुखि धूमले शबलिहां शिवांशि प्रिये इति स्वसुरभिकुलां तरलमभयान्तां मुरा प्रजे विजयिनां भजे विपिन देशत केशव घनप्रणय मेतुरन मधुर नर्मगोष्ठी कला विलास निलय निलाय विविध वेश विद्युतिना सकेन अखिल सारया पतिषु हासयान्तं गिरा प्रजे विजयिनां भजे विपिन देशत केशव शमाम्बुकनिकावली दरविलीडगन्धान्तर समूढगिरिधातुभिर् अलिखितचारुपान्त्राङ्कुरा उदाञ्चरलिमण्डले द्युतिविदां विवक्रालका प्रजे विजयिनां भजे विपिन देशत केशव निबद्धनवतर्णक बलिविलोकनोत्कण्ठया नटात्कुरपुटाञ्चलात् अलगुभिर्भुवां विन्दते Kalena dhavala ghatam lagu nirvartayantam puro Praje vijayinam bhaje vipina deshata keshavam Padam katati birvaram virachayantam advashriyam Chalatarala naichiki nichaya dolitum rasrajam Marula hari chanchale krita dukula chudanchala Braje vijayinam bhaje vipina deshata keshavam Vilasa murali kala vani birula sanmanasa Shanara kila pallavi pulakayantamantarvihe Mohor vidadatam hridi pramuditancha goshteshvare Praje vijayinam bhaje vipina deshata keshavam Upeta pati sundari tati virabhiravyarchitam Smitam kurakaram pitar natarapanga bhangi shatar Stanastavaka sanchara nayana chanchari kanchala Praje vijayinam bhaje vipina deshata keshavam Idam nikila ballavi kula mahotsavolasana Kramena kilaya puman patati shushtupadashtakam Tam ujjvala diyam sada nija padaravinda dvaye Ratinda dada chanchalam sukayatar vishakasaka Vraje vijayinam bhaje vipina deshata keshavam 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 Oh Jaya Keshavadev, 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 Jaya Keshavadev, Jaya Keshavadev, Jaya Keshavadev, Keshavadev, Jaya Keshavadev.
What is this? এরকম করছিস কেন? এই এই চুপ এই এরকম হলো কেন? এই পাগলি চলে গেছে।
Okay, so today is a special article. I really love this article. It's by Śrīmad Bhaktivedānta Trivikrama Gosvāmī Maharāja, Well-Wishers of the Fallen. And he wrote this. When did he write this? I've read this once before, actually, on Facebook Live. Year 44, issue 3. Okay, I don't know what year that is. But anyways, he wrote this for Gaudiya Patrika. Actually, this is something that I think would be so awesome to be made into a small booklet for distribution. Vajanti Mala had that idea, and I think it's a really great idea. This is Śrīla Trivikrama Gosvāmī Maharāja. All right. So one day, the exceptionally kind and compassionate Sri Narad Goswami was walking through the forest on his way to Prayag. He planned to bathe there in the confluence of the 3 sacred rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. Along the way, he saw a deer lying on the forest floor. The deer was writhing in agony, for it had been pierced by an The deer was writhing in agony, for it had been pierced by an arrow and its legs broken. This sight struck Narad's heart with intense pangs of grief. Not too far ahead from where the deer lay, he spotted a wild boar, fallen and writhing upon the ground in the same way. The boar had also been left to convulse in pain, also pierced by an arrow and its legs broken. All of this perturbed Narad greatly. Again, a short distance away, he found a rabbit in the same condition. His heart, enveloped by the pain of those living beings, became extremely restless. As he proceeded further, he spotted the man who was responsible for such cruelty. Behind a tree stood a dark-complexioned hunter. His eyes were red, and his figure was fearsome and wild. He looked like the Lord of Death. He had already fixed an arrow to his bow and taken aim at his next prey. Completely unable to remain apathetic, Narad left the path that led to the confluence of the 3 sacred rivers and walked into the forest toward the hunter. The hunter's prey, a couple of deer, were startled when they saw Narad coming and fled. The hunter began boiling with fury. He wanted to shout profanities at Sri Narad Gosvāmī, but the influence of that greatest of sages was so powerful that he realized that he was completely unable to do so. Instead, when he opened his mouth, he spoke as follows. "O respected sir," he began, "for what purpose have you compelled to leave your path and walk towards me? Upon seeing you, the deer who were my prey have fled." "My dear boy," Narad said, "I lost my way and came here to ask you for directions. But I also came to you hoping you would answer a doubt I have. Along the path, I saw a deer, a boar, and other wild animals writhing in pain. Their flesh had been pierced by arrows and their legs crushed. Would I be right to assume they, too, were your prey?" "Yes," admitted the hunter. "You are right. They were my prey." Narad said, "You are a hunter, so your occupation is to give chase to animals. But why do you not swiftly end the lives of your prey? Why do you leave them half dead, unable to leave their bodies? What is your purpose in such actions?" "Please hear me, good sir," said the hunter. "My name is Bharatī, and I have learned my hunting skills from my father. I wound my prey so severely that they cannot flee, and in that half-dead state, they simply lie writhing in agony. This sight fills me with a kind of happiness that I cannot experience if I kill them swiftly." So, Sri Narad, who is most compassionate, listened to the hunter's explanation and then spoke to him. "I want to beg something from you," he said, humbly folding his hands in front of the hunter. "Will you give me what I ask?" The hunter became very pleased upon hearing this, and a genuine desire arose in his heart to serve Sri Narad, who is such an exalted saint. So he replied, "If you so need, you can take the fallen deer and other animals for yourself, or if you want deerskin or tiger skin, come to my home. I'll give you whatever you want." Spiritual merit. If we contemplate the immense benediction this hunter was about to receive that day by dint of some unknown spiritual merit, sukriti of his, we will become awestruck by his good fortune. In a past life, he certainly must have served a pure devotee of the Lord, or the Lord himself, perhaps without even knowing it. As a result, on that day, he was conversing with such an exalted devotee of the Lord as Sri Narad Gosvāmī. Moreover, he was feeling genuinely inclined to serve him. Because of all this, he was soon to achieve ultimate auspiciousness. It is written in Scripture, "Bhaktistu bhagavar bhakta sangena parijayate satsanga prapyate pumbi sukriter purvasanchitai." Brihad Naradiya Puran 4:33. Bhakti becomes manifest by the association of the pure devotees of Bhagavan, sadhu sangha. Such sadhu sangha is attained by the influence of previously accumulated spiritual merit, sukriti. Sri Narad Gosvāmī personally accepted this hunter's fate as his own responsibility, for the hunter had accumulated some spiritual merit. "I do not want the deer, its skin, or anything else," explained Narad. "I just want that from this day on, you will not leave all the animals you hunt half dead. Instead, slay them swiftly so that they leave their bodies immediately. When the hunter heard this, he said, "You are asking this of me, but what is in it for you? And why do you forbid me to leave the animals half dead? Please explain to me what is wrong with leaving them like that." Śrīmad replied, "To render the creatures unable to die is to inflict much more pain on them than outright killing them. To cause another entity distress is to guarantee that you yourself will consequently experience the same suffering. Hence, causing pain to others is tantamount to arranging the same suffering they experience for yourself. Just imagine, due to misunderstanding the laws of life, all the creatures you have killed shall kill you, one birth after another, for the same reason. In the Vedas it has been said, Ma hinsyat sarvani bhutani. No living entity should be made to suffer. And Manu, the father of mankind, has similarly said, Mang sakadati amutra yasya mangsham ihad myaham. Whoever eats me, I shall later kill and take his flesh. The hunter had been merciless and an extremely savage person his entire life. But now, deeply affected by his encounter with such an exalted devotee of Bhagavan, faith in the inescapable reality of the fearsome consequences of his sins developed within his heart. As he began to vividly contemplate the many wicked deeds he had committed in his lifetime, and then the inevitable torturous punishments he was fated to suffer for them, he became engulfed by intense anxiety. He cried, "Ever since my childhood, I've been killing living entities. There must be no end to the sinful reactions I've incurred. Is there any way to save me? Now I surrender myself at your sacred feet. Please save me from the reactions of my countless sins." When Śrīmad Rishi heard the hunter's earnest prayer to be delivered from his terrible fate, he said, "If you do what I tell you and maintain your trust in me, you can be delivered from the reactions of all your sins." "I shall do whatever you say," the hunter said. The following points should be noted. First of all, spiritual piety, sukriti, is essential. It is impossible to meet saintly personalities, the devotees of the Lord, without it. But it can be acquired knowingly or unknowingly. As a result of the hunter's previously acquired spiritual merit, Śrīmad Rishi came to him, but his faith in Narad was not roused simply by seeing him. In fact, he had at first even wished to abuse Narad with foul language, yet after speaking with him, the hunter developed faith in him. Therefore, although it is enjoined adau shraddha, at first there is faith, it actually implies adau sukriti, at first there must be sukriti. You know that shloka, right? Adau shraddha tatha sadhu sangha bhajana kriya tato nantana vitti sat tato nishta ruchi stata ata shaktis tato. That verse Srila Rupa Gosvāmī wrote about the different stages of bhakti, from shraddha, sadhu sangha, to bhajana kriya, nantana vitti. And so it says adau shraddha. In the beginning there is shraddha, but now he's saying actually it's adau sukriti. Because it's by sukriti that one comes in touch with the sadhus and then gets some shraddha. So only after someone has a spiritual merit is this faith, this shraddha, attained. Thereafter, he attains the company of sadhus, saints, and along with that, the inclination to follow their instructions is born. Wealth is a hindrance to one's eternal well-being. Secondly, through the statements of scripture or through their own words, the sadhus sever our attachments to all that is mundane and illusory. So in order to rescue the hunter from sensualistic life, Śrīmad ordered him to break his bow, which was the root of his futile pursuits, his anarthas, as well as the principal means of his livelihood. For a soul entangled in the clutches of anarthas, wealth causes far greater harm than high birth, erudition, or physical beauty. That's interesting, huh? Wealth causes far greater harm than high birth, erudition, or physical beauty. Śrīmad once said, Nahyanyo jushato josyan buddhi bhrangsho rajoguna Śrīmadad abhijatyadir yatra stri dutamasava. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 10.10.8. Of all temptations for enjoyment, the allure of becoming rich bewilders a man's intelligence even more than his physical beauty, high birth, or erudition. When an ignorant person is privileged with wealth, he squanders it indulging in wine, women, and gambling. Bhagavan Sri Krishna said, Yasyaham anugrihnami harisheta dhanam shanai tatto dhanam tajantasya svajana dukkadukkitam. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 10.88.8. When I wish to show someone special favor, I slowly strip him of his wealth. Eventually, his relatives and friends abandon him for being poverty-stricken. Thus, he suffers one calamity after another. Sri Shankaracharya has also explained that wealth is a hindrance to one's eternal well-being. Yavarvito parjan asakta tavan nija paribaro rakta pascha jivati jar jara dehe vartakopi na prichati gehe. As long as a man is committed to earning money, his family loves him. But later, as his body dwindles with age and he becomes incapable of working, everyone in his house ceases talking to him or even taking care of him. Okay. Chanting the holy names of Sri Bhagavan is the most beneficial spiritual path mankind can pursue. But the intoxication of wealth is a formidable obstruction on that path. Therefore, is the sound in the background too loud? The kirtan going on? Let me turn it up. Should we add that verse to our extra list? You're saying the Sukriti verse? I think so. Yeah, definitely. That's such an important verse. One second. I'm just noise. That will take out the background noise. Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Yeah, okay. I think that's better. Okay, let me reread that. Chanting the holy names of Sri Bhagavan is the most beneficial spiritual path mankind can pursue. But the intoxication of wealth is a formidable obstruction on that path. Therefore, Sri Kunti Devi once said, Janmaishwarya Shruta Shri Bir Edhamana Madapuman Naivarhatya Bidhatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gocharam. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 1.8.26. You are easily attainable for those who are exhausted within this mundane world. On the other hand, no one who has become intoxicated by the four privileges of prestigious birth, wealth, and luxury, erudition, and physical beauty can approach you with true sincerity. Whoa, that's heavy. On account of all this, Sri Narad Goswāmī ordered, this has been so relevant to me because I've been really badly wanting an iPad, like really badly, so that I could write and it's been really distracting me and I haven't been able to chant seriously because I keep on thinking about it. And I haven't been very really sincere in when I'm doing kirtan or anything because this material desire has been polluting my mind like anything. Anyways, on account of all of this, Sri Narad Goswāmī ordered the hunter to break his own bow, thus terminating his sinful method of earning a livelihood and encouraging him instead to adopt the life of a mendicant. That was the only way the hunter would be free to experience the Lord's kindness and to realize his own insignificance. As long as someone remains attached to forbidden sinful activities, which are driven by passion and ignorance, his consciousness will never awaken to the reality of the sadhus, the scriptures, and the Lord. Yavat papaistu malinam hridayam tabare vahi na shastre satyabhuddhi syat sarbhuddhi sarguro tata. Oh, did I remove? I did. Okay, good. I just read this, right? Yeah, I did. As long as one's heart is polluted by sin, his intelligence cannot have faith that the scriptures and Sadguru are real. In the matter of attaining one's eternal spiritual well-being, Paramartha, poverty is indeed favorable. Mundane prosperity and sensualism are never favorable in the life of a person practicing bhakti. And it will never suffice to simply feign spiritual realization and perfection. One must genuinely rise to the platform of spiritual realization. Material wealth and other temptations can never delude or intoxicate a siddha purush, or perfected soul. But if one who has not realized perfection attempts to mimic the behavior of a realized personality, it will only result in his own ruination. Naitat samachare jatu manasapi hyanishvara vinashyata charan modhyad yataru dobdijam visham. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 10:33-30. If an ordinary person foolishly mimics the behavior of a powerful master or god, he will ruin himself, just as drinking an ocean of poison, as Shiva once did, would annihilate any ordinary mortal man. We have heard that when someone is still in the early stages of chanting, he constantly commits offenses to the Lord's holy names. As a result of those offenses, he verily obtains profuse material wealth and fame, as well as abundant opportunities for sense enjoyment. And he even sees this affluence and recognition as signs of the Lord's favor on him. If he fails to understand that this opulence is the result of his offenses, and in fact an obstacle in the path of bhakti, and if he does not act cautiously, then the chances of him becoming trinadapi sunicha, that is more humble than a blade of grass, are very low, and rather undermined. In this way, impediments to chanting the pure form of the holy name, Shuddhanam, arise. In actuality, no amount of wealth or luxury can delude a self-realized soul, nor can they intoxicate him with vanity. Only one who is still gripped by anarthas should be fearful of all these things. Supreme auspiciousness for sadhaks who are affected by sensual urges lies in poverty and being totally without possessions. Hence, abandoning all riches and opulence in favor of voluntary poverty shall prove propitious for the devotees. We have heard from the accounts of Narad Rishi's life how the most gracious universal Guru showered his mercy upon the two sons of Kubera. He demonstrated that once the vanity of wealth is eradicated, a person earns an eligibility for bhakti. In Narad Rishi's life history, we find that he never accepted a wealthy or famous disciple out of greed for wealth and opulence. The truth of the words, Je jata patita hoy, tava doya tatatai, the more fallen someone is, the more mercy is available for him, exists forever in Sri Guru Tattva, which is represented by Sri Narad. Gurus like Sri Narad never exploit their disciples for money on the pretext of bestowing eternal well-being upon them, as many corrupt gurus are known to do. Such flaws, which are self-evident in the behavior of bogus gurus, cannot be found in the character of gurus like Sri Narad. The Puranas state, Guruvo Bhava Shishya Vita Paharaka. Many gurus exploit their disciples for wealth. Genuine gurus are totally above envy. It is impossible for them to feel envy of another's competence as guru. Sri Narad and other genuine gurus are never seen to contesting each other, scuffling over any highly educated, honorable, or wealthy person, hoping to make them their disciple. On the contrary, when they meet another guru, especially one of a similar disposition and caliber, the profound camaraderie they feel for one another becomes evident. And we're going to see this in this story. Sri Narad's going to exemplify this exact thing, Srila Trivikrama Gosvāmī Maharāja is saying. Just really quickly, I want to see the comments. So someone's saying here, so many independently wealthy devotees are able to follow the sadhus. Yes, that is true, but see, like me, I don't have very much money. I'm not like rich or anything, but I am very much affected by this desire for wealth and wanting material possessions. I want an iPhone, I want an iPad, all these different things. And so even though I am probably by like any normal standard, I'm poor, I'm still very much affected by this. But somebody who might have a ton of money, who aren't so attached to wealth, like they have so much wealth, but they're not super attached to it, they are, this doesn't apply to them as much. Or it might not apply to them at all if they're fully renounced from wealth, and they just consider everything they have the property of their Gurudev, and they're even willing to give up all this wealth and everything. If their Guru tells them, I want you to give me all your money and everything, and they'll just freely do it, then that person is, there's an example of Ramanujacharya's disciples, and like a very good example of this. I'm not going to mention it right now, that's because we should move on. But you probably know the story. Anyhow, so let's move on. Hopefully that answered the question. Did I remove the comment? Yeah. Okay. So let's just reread this on. On the contrary, when these genuine gurus meet another guru, especially one of a similar disposition and caliber, the profound camaraderie they feel for one another becomes evident. Wholehearted surrender to Guru. Some days later, Śrīmad went to see Mrgari, who had now become a penniless mendicant, in order to give him Śrīmad went to see him to give him his association. On his way to Mrgari's straw hut, he was pleasantly surprised to meet his friend Parvat Rishi. Overjoyed and thinking of his disciples' welfare, Narad begged Parvat Rishi to accompany him. Parvat Rishi affectionately accepted his invitation, and together they headed towards the hunter's cottage. Meanwhile, Mrgari developed genuine faith in Sri Narad, his Gurudev, for he beheld with his own eyes the glory and divine potency of Sri Narad. Narad Gosvāmī had instantly healed the deer and other 2 animals that Mrgari had shot, and all but killed the day they had met. And Narad Rishi, he let them run off into the forest. And from that day on, people had miraculously began bringing him a large amount of food every day to maintain him, without his ever asking. Because of these divine phenomena, Mrgari became staunchly and unpretentiously inspired to serve his Gurudev, Sri Narad. Without anyone urging him, he wholeheartedly surrendered himself to his Guru Pad Padma and attained a state of fixed dedication to him. He never succumbed to making a shallow or pretentious show of affection for Narad, or submission to him, or never making a shallow or pretentious show of affection to him or submission to him, or any other form of deceit. Consequently, he longed for the company of his Sri Guru Pad Padma and became increasingly restless to see him moment by moment. See this most wicked person who reveled in watching animals torture and suffer, writhing in pain, twitching in pain. That person, just by Narad Rishi's association, just by short time, just a couple minutes of association with Narad Rishi, became much more advanced than I am, much more, renouncing everything and becoming so eager to see Sri Gurudev and wanting to serve him. And so, on the day Narad came with his friend Parvat Rishi to visit him, his heart brimmed with such intense love that as soon as he saw his Guru Pad Padma approaching from a distance, he started to run towards him, anxious to fall prostrated at his lotus feet. However, since a multitude of ants covered the path, he could not run. Being very careful not to kill or injure a single ant, he began to tread most carefully, using his cloth to gently sweep them from the path. Having done so, he prostrated himself before his Sri Guru Pad Padma. And there's a picture of this on the title. Where is it? here. See, there is the transformed Mrgari. See, there's the ants there, and he's moving them so that he can offer his obeisances to Narad and Parvat Rishi. All right, sorry. Where am I? All right. So when Sri Narad saw the extraordinary kindness of non-violence that had appeared in one who had once been such a fearsome and heartless hunter, Sri Narad Rishi said, Ete nahyarbhuta vyada tava hingsa dayo guna hari bhakto pravrittaye natesyu paratapina. From the Skanda Puran. The meaning of this verse is that once a person attains bhakti for Sri Hari, the desire to kill or hurt anyone, even a tiny ant or an insect, will not remain in his heart. Oh, whoops, sorry. This is what the verse means. O hunter, it is not at all remarkable that you have developed such good qualities like non-violence. For those who earnestly take up devotion to Sri Hari never wish to inflict pain on others. All right, we just read this, but the meaning of this verse is that once a person attains bhakti for Sri Hari, the desire to kill or hurt anyone, even a tiny ant or insect, will not remain in his heart. Therefore, those who wish to attain bhakti completely avoid violence, even in the matter of eating and so forth, by the grace of Sri Guru. Mrgari respectfully seated Sri Narad Goswami and Parvat Muni on kusha grass mats within his courtyard. He washed their feet and drank the water, sprinkling some of it on his head, and then began chanting the names of Krishna with great love. As he chanted and danced in front of his Guru, his body trembled, his hair stood on end, and he began weeping. Beholding the hunter's remarkable transformation and pure love of God, Parvat Muni was wonderstruck by the glory of Sri Narad's supernatural power to bestow divine love of God upon the living entities. He addressed Sri Narad as follows: Aho danya sid devarshi kripaya yasya takshanat nicho pyut pulako lebe lubdako ratemachute. Aho, Narad Muni, you are extolled as a sage among gods. By your grace, even a low-born hunter can instantly develop ecstatic symptoms like horripilation and become attached to the Lord. Thus it is seen that Prem Bhakti is attainable by the effect of saintly association. Material gain, adoration, and fame do not find a place in any way in the heart of a person who has such divine company. This is certain. Even as the bogus guru instructs his disciple on the topic of Guru Bhakti, it is unbearable for him to contemplate to what extent he is actually qualified to be a guru. Indeed, there's nothing more painful for an artificial guru to contemplate. Therefore, we feel utmost honor for the following words: Durlabha Sadgurur Devi Shishya Santapa Haraka. O Parvati Devi, rare is a bona fide guru who can truly end the suffering of his disciples. Translated from Sri Gauriya Patrika, Year 44, Issue 3. Wasn't that such an awesome article? I really like this one. Yeah. All right. So now we will read about Shri Bhaktyāloka Paramahaṁsa Maharāja. Yes, Pundarik Vidyanidhi versus Gopinath Pattanayak. All right. Oops. Sorry. Why did I do that? Okay. Let's move on to this article. Where is it? Oh God, I have too many things open. Here it is. There are two articles, but since it's already 8:45 and I don't want to miss Prasad, I'm going to just read one of them. The first one is written under the editorship of this one. Sri Paramahaṁsa Maharaj Enters Nitya Leela is written under the editorship of Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj. And this next one, I think we're going to read this one, is the one spoken by Srila Bhakti Vijñāna Bharatī Goswami Maharaj. So we'll read this one. But if anyone wants to read the other one, you can go to vcvani.com. vcvani.com or vishuddhachaitanyavani.com. All right. Here's a picture of Bhaktyāloka Paramahaṁsa Maharaj. Actually, I think I was the one who got this photo. They asked me to go to his mat and in Mayapur and get a picture of him, and so then I did that. Okay. Below is an excerpt of Srila Bhaktyāloka Paramahaṁsa Maharaj's glories from My Beloved Masters by Śrīmad Bhaktivedānta Bharatī Goswami Maharaj. Before taking sannyas, Śrīmad Bhaktyāloka Paramahaṁsa Maharaj, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was known as Mahananda Brahmachari. While Srila Prabhupada was still present in this world, Sri Mahananda Brahmachari managed Bhagavat Press in Krishnanagar, which was dedicated to printing Srila Prabhupada's editions of Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Actually, the title manager does not befit devotees, because a devotee understands his position is always that of a servant. But as Sri Mahananda Brahmachari's duties were exactly like those of a manager, we are referring to him as such. He arranged everything for the in-house printing of Śrīmad Bhagavatam and other publications of Srila Prabhupada. For the service of these publications, Sri Mahananda Brahmachari employed a stenographer and a typist. What is a stenographer? Is that somebody who places... I don't know what happened to my dictionary. My dictionaries stopped working for some reason. So frustrating. What happens when I do this? Okay, that's another way of opening it. A stenographer is a person whose job is to transcribe speech in shorthand. Okay. A court stenographer. Okay. Stenographer, however. Once the king of Nadia was in need of printing a publication, but that king had no one in his service capable of typing or taking dictation. Hearing of the king's need, Sri Mahananda Brahmachari offered the services of Bhagavat Press's stenographer, I don't know how you say it, stenographer or stenographer, and typist, and even offered to print the publication, as Bhagavat Press often took outside clients. They presented the king's publication in a way that everything was exact and without even a single mistake. Seeing the high quality of his publication and the care with which the devotees of Bhagavat Press produced it, the king decided that he would no longer send his future publications to Kolkata for printing, but would instead use Bhagavat Press exclusively. In this way, the press eventually gained a favorable reputation, due in part to the efforts of Sri Mahananda Brahmachari. Everyone in the area knew they could put their full trust in the abilities of the devotees of Bhagavat Press, and if by chance some mistake was made, the press would immediately correct it. Another service Sri Mahananda Brahmachari used to perform was to acquire properties for the mat. Because of this service and other services in which he acquired various items for the Gaudiya mat, he was given the name Kenaram, which means a person who purchases everything. Subtle indication, big service. The villagers of Champakhatta and Navadip had a deep respect for Srila Prabhupada, and some of them became his initiated disciples. Out of regard for him, they donated him the property that encompassed the previous residence of Jayadev Goswami, which is the present site of Sri Gaur Gadadhar Gaudiya Mat. There was one renowned person in that village who had two recently widowed daughters. The daughters' in-laws were unwilling to hand over their respective inheritances, and so the two women were unable to maintain their life. When Srila Prabhupada learned about the situation these ladies faced, he simply said, "How will they maintain themselves?" Taking his Guru Maharaj's seemingly light inquiry as an order, Mahananda Brahmachari visited the local courts in Ranagat and filed a court case against the ladies' in-laws, and eventually managed to secure their respective inheritances for them. Wow, that was so kind of him. There's another picture of him. Bhaktivedānta Paramahaṁsa Maharaj. I wonder when he entered Nitya Lila. Intelligent service. Srila Prabhupada had a disciple named Nishikanta Sanyal, a professor at Ravensa College in Cuttack. Nishikanta Sanyal was a good friend of Srila Prabhupada also. Although Mr. Sanyal had an entire family to maintain, he would offer all his salary to Srila Prabhupada, even after Srila Prabhupada had told him, "If you keep donating your salary to me, then how will your family survive? It would be better if you were to keep something for their maintenance." Out of concern for the family, Srila Prabhupada told Mahananda Brahmachari, "Because Nishikanta Sanyal is donating his entire earnings to us, it is our responsibility to take care of his family. I want you to arrange for their complete maintenance." On this order, Sri Mahananda Brahmachari took care of the family's necessities for many years. Whatever they were in need of, the education and marriages of the children, and everything else, was arranged by him. Externally, it seems as though such an arrangement would be improper. A renounced person generally has no business seeing to the needs of a Grihastha family, and should instead be engaged in the service of Sri Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas. However, there are two considerations in this situation. Firstly, Srila Prabhupada had given him the direct order to maintain the family, and there is never any fault in carrying out the instructions of Guru. Quite the opposite. The Guru's order is the disciple's duty. Secondly, Sri Mahananda Brahmachari intelligently arranged everything in such a way that he was never required to be physically present for these services. Through delegating responsibilities to various people, he never had to visit the family even once. My service to him. Some time after Srila Prabhupada's departure, Sri Mahananda Brahmachari acquired some land a short walk from the Ganga Ghat in Mayapur, near Kshetrapal Shiva. That's Hular Ghat, right? Yeah, Hular Ghat. Eventually, refugees from Bangladesh occupied that land and refused to leave. Acting as his army, a number of devotees and I drove the refugees from the land. Sri Mahananda Brahmachari's godbrother, Srila Bhakti Sora Bhakti Sar Gosvāmī Maharaj, eventually came to Mayapur and desired to have some place to stay. So Sri Mahananda Brahmachari gave him half of his land. After some time, the same situation with Bangladeshi refugees that occurred on Sri Mahananda Brahmachari's land also occurred there. Learning of this, I offered to help Srila Bhakti Sar Gosvāmī Maharaj by driving the refugees from his lands, but he mentioned, "I have no desire to construct a mott, because I can always visit the motts of my godbrothers. Therefore, there's no problem if these refugees are staying here. I have no plans to expand." I replied, "Maharajji, this would only take me half an hour. After that, all the refugees will be moved out of your land." He accepted my proposal, and I was able to serve him in this way, just as I had served Sri Mahananda Brahmachari. Acceptance of sannyas. Another disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Swarup Parvat Goswami Maharaj, originally from Swarupganj, had a mott called Varsha Bhanavi Daita Gaudiya Math in Udala, Orissa, near Kirchor Gopinath. After his disappearance, many devotees wanted that mott to be given to my Pararadatama Guru Maharaj, Śrīmad Bhakti Dait Madhav Goswami Maharaj, and come under the banner of Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math. At that time, Srila Prabhupada's disciples had a discussion and considered that since Sri Mahananda Brahmachari did not yet have any place, Sri Varshabhanavi Daita Gaudiya Math should be given to him, and that he should take sannyas from Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj. He accepted his godbrother's proposal and was thenceforth known as Sri Bhaktyāloka Paramahaṁsa Maharaj, the Acharya of Varshabhanavi Daita Gaudiya Math in Udala. There's his murti. His service attitude. When Guru Maharaj accepted the responsibility of acquiring Srila Prabhupada's appearance place in Puri, many of the required documents were in the Oriya language. At that time, there was an Oriya devotee, Shripad Bhakti Sundar Sagar Maharaj, residing in Sri Varshabhanavi Daita Gaudiya Math. Guru Maharaj asked Srila Paramahaṁsa Maharaj, "Maharaj, if it is not a problem for you, we would like to request that Sagar Maharaj stay with us for some time and help us in acquiring Srila Prabhupada's appearance place." Paramahaṁsa Maharaj replied, "I am not so selfish as to hinder this important service. I will certainly send Sri Sagar Maharaj with you, even at the cost of my own inconvenience. It would be a matter of great happiness and honor to perform even the most menial of services for Srila Prabhupada. We have personally experienced that the speciality of Srila Paramahaṁsa Maharaj was that he was incredibly affectionate and simple. Whenever I would meet with him, I would offer my full Ashtang Dandavat Pranams. But even though I was like his disciple, he would always embrace me. His nature was that he never considered anyone his junior, but rather respected all devotees simply because they were on the path of bhakti. Jai Srila Bhaktyāloka Paramahaṁsa Mahārāja ki Jai. So yeah, if you get time today, you can go to vcvani.com. Actually, I'll just post the link for this article in the comments, and then you can read it on your own. All right, I'm going to start Mahamantra because they're serving up prasad already. Hare. Oh, whoa. Okay, it's stenographer. Okay, stenographer. And Ranagata is your hometown. That is so cool. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jaya Sapashara Śrīla Prabhupada, Sapashara Śrīla Prabhupada, Jaya Sapashara Śrīla Prabhupada, Sapashara Śrīla Prabhupada, Jaya Guru Deva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jai Gurudeva, 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 Jai Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Shinitai Gaur, Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharika Giridhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashatara Shatashmad Shala Bhaktivedānta Narayan Gosvāmī Maharāja Shala Gurudev ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashatara Shatashmad Shala Bhaktivedānta Vaman Gosvāmī Maharāja ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashatara Shatashmad Shala Bhaktivedānta Trivikrama Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashatara Shatashmad Srila Bhaktivedānta Swami Maharāja Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashatara Shatashmad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashatara Shatashmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Mahābhagavat Srila Gokshara Babaji Maharaj ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Vaishnava Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Dashagunath Shara Gosai Prabhu ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai Namachay Shri Haira ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Sarva Abhishtapadata Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki Jai Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi ki Jai Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki Jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai Shri Bhaktyāloka Paramahaṁsa Mahārāja ki Jai Tadiya Shubha Avirbhav Titi ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Shinitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashachat Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Dandavat Pranam Saribol. Jai Shri Radhe. And what's today? Today is the 12th. And so we only have 2 more days. So I guess tomorrow and the day after I will read articles by my Gurudev. Great, finally made it to my Gurudev. I actually should have started a little bit earlier so we could read more than 2, but anyhow. Haribol. Is the sound still working? Oh, the sound stopped working.